friends, I am back officially, maybe, perhaps. I've been gone since like December 20th, so yeah, it's been a minute. But I thought that the best way to come back was to talk about the top books that I read in 2019. I have 10 books to talk to you guys about, and already my mouth is failing me, so let's see how good this video is going to end up being. I did ask you guys on Twitter what you thought my top 5 books of the year were, and a lot of you almost got it. Like literally, I don't know if it's just because I'm basic or you guys just really pay very close attention, but the point is that today I'm just going to go off on all of the books that I loved in 2019. Of course, I loved more than 10 books, but these were just some books that stayed with me throughout the year. Books that I could not stop thinking about, books that had me up at night screaming, reading fan fiction. Okay, I've never read fan fiction, but you get the point. I would also love to thank Skillshare for sponsoring this video. They've supported me and my channel for quite some time now, and I'm just really appreciative. I feel like right now is the perfect time to join if you haven't already, because you can make 2020 your bid. You can make 2020 about exploring new skills or learning new hobbies or just like delving deeper into passions that you already have, especially if one of your resolutions is to learn a new thing or practice on something. I feel like Skillshare can really help you with that. And also Skillshare is super affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. So if one of your resolutions is also to save up on money, then this is also the perfect way of enhancing yourself and then also taking care of your bank account. One of the classes that I'm really looking forward to learning about in this 2020 is styling your space, bringing creativity to interior design. With this new year, I kind of want to revamp my room. I just feel like right now I'm mentally in a rut, and I feel like sometimes changing the space around you can really help with that. So I'm really looking forward to looking into this class. Skillshare has given me a special link for you guys that you can use to get 2 months for free of Skillshare Premium, where you have access to every single class that they have. So I would really love it if you guys would go check it out. Without further ado, let's get into my top books of 2019. Coming up on number 10, I feel like a Miss Mojo video.
Your to-be read list is about to get a whole lot longer.
Coming up on number 10, we have Queen of Air and Darkness, written by Cassandra Clare. This is the third and final book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. This book is like everything that I loved about Lord of Shadows and Lady Midnight, but to the 10th power, to the 11th power, to anything power. It was so badass, and the action scenes, they just enthralled me, and I felt like I was right there with them. And I can't really say much because this is the third book in the trilogy, but just know that this is, if not the best, one of the best conclusions to a series that I have ever read in my whole entire 22 years of life. The places that Cassandra Clare takes this book, never before seen, 100% blew my mind, will never be over it, fantastic, amazing, you know, incredible. Coming up at number 9 is a book that definitely surprised me. When I first read it, I thought it was going to be like a solid 4 stars, you know, I was really gonna love it, and then I was gonna forget about it from 3 to 4 months, but it ended up being one of the best books that I read in 2019, and that is The Final Empire, written by Brandon Sanderson. This threw me for a wild ride. I had no idea what I was getting into when I first picked this up. All I'm gonna say is there's metal magic, which means that we have characters that can manipulate metals, and they can do different things, like they can jump really high. This sounds terrible. Yeah, characters can jump really high. They can throw coins at each other. This sounds terrible. I swear to God, it's so much better than I'm painting it for you guys. For thousands of years, the ash fell and no flowers bloomed. For 1,000 years, the Ska slaved in mystery. Now, a heist may be their unlikely salvation. There's no other description. This does have its traditional fantasy tropes, like it has a tyrant for a governor, It has the girl that didn't know she had powers, but then she turns out to be the most powerful of them all. It also has like this group of misfits that fit together and they become a family. It has all of those traditional tropes, and you'd think that seeing it so many times you'd be bored, but Brandon Sanderson spins it in such a way that it sort of amazes you how good it can be and how fresh it feels. I think I need to move on because the fact that I can't explain this is giving me anxiety. So let's continue on to number 8, which is Vicious, written by V.E. Schwab. I read this on March, I believe, and it absolutely blew my mind. This is not the first V.E. Schwab book that I read, but it is the first V.E. Schwab book that I read and made me completely and hopelessly fall in love with V.E. Schwab's writing and V.E. Schwab's characters. Oh my god. I love when I do this. Yes, okay, this makes it so easy. Like, I put like a little post-it with like the basic information. God, I love past me right now. Okay. In this book, we have extraordinary people, which most people believe is a theory, like it's just a myth, but there's one of the characters, which is called Elliot Cardale, and he believes that extraordinary people actually exist. Extraordinary people are people that have had near-death experiences, but then they come back, and they come back with powers. Eli and Victor partner up to prove that extraordinary people do exist, and of course, things go wrong. They both become extraordinary people, but at what cost? And that's what I'm going to leave you guys with. I don't really want to spoil you guys, but I do want to say that this is such an interesting analysis of the good side and the bad side and what we consider to be evil and to be right. You don't really fall in love with the story itself, you fall in love with the characters and the connection that you have with them. And I just really love Victor Vale. He is such an interesting character to analyze, and I will never get tired of talking about him. So if you ever do read Vicious and you want someone to kind of fangirl about, theorize with, kind of like have an existential crisis with, I'm your girl. Coming up at number 7, we have a book that I read late into the year, but definitely had to be in this list because it blew my mind. I know I keep saying that. You'd think my mind would not be here anymore because it's been blown so many times, but yes, we are here. A lot less brain cells, but we're still here. Almost thriving. Let's go. Queen of Nothing, written by Holly Black. Right next to Queen of Air and Darkness, this is one of the best conclusions to a trilogy that I have ever read in my life. It had everything that I wanted and more. It had things that I couldn't have even imagined, but they were things that I needed, and they were things that filled me to the brim with so much happiness. And it made me feel so satisfied as well. Like, it's so hard for me as a reader to feel satisfied with an ending because I feel like we'll always kind of want a little bit more, like just a little bit more time with our favorite characters, or just one more kiss, just one more death scene, you know, those kinds of things. I feel like Holly Black did such a good job at satisfying every want, need, desire, wish that I had, that I had to put this in my top books. The Cruel Prince, if you don't know, is a story of fae and humans and what happens when a human grows up in the fae world. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not going to like deep dive into what it's really about because I feel like The Cruel Prince is one of those booktube books that everybody knows about. Coming up at number 6, we have one of the most beautiful books that I have ever had the honor of reading. Strange the Dreamer, written by Laini Taylor. This book feels so human, and I know that that's such a weird phrase, like what the frick does that mean, a book that feels human? But okay, let me rephrase. It's a book that made me feel seen. There are so many quotes and so many moments where I just had to stop reading and kind of like take a moment, take a deep breath, and kind of, you know, let myself cry a little because I had never felt so seen by a book. And I love that our main character, Laszlo Strange, he has such a close connection to books, because that's exactly how I feel about books. And whenever Laszlo is talking about his love for books and how books have basically shaped who he is, it's like, yeah, that's me. That's exactly how I feel. I can't believe that somebody else feels this way. And I just felt so understood. And I know I'm being so freaking dramatic right now, but that's how I felt. And after I finished this book, I was talking to every single person that would listen. I was like, read this book. Please read it. You will not regret it, and you will thank me. And that's exactly what I did with my sister. She did scream at me a little bit because it broke her heart. But then she was like, thank you for this. Actually, she never did say thank you. Guess I gotta go collect. But the point is that I just absolutely adored this book. It's one of the most beautiful books that I've read, and as you can see, most of the tabs are pink, which means like quotes or phrases that I loved. Okay, I'm just gonna read like random quotes because I need you to understand how beautiful the writing is. So here we go. Life won't just happen to you. You have to happen to it. Remember, the spirit grows sluggish when you neglect the passions. I mean, come on. Also, one of the most iconic lines of this duology ever. It was impossible, of course, but when did that ever stop any dreamer from dreaming? Like, it's right here in the back of the book. It's that iconic. And it's just, God, I'm getting goosebumps just reading through the quotes that I've tabbed. So this next part is a bit more personal, but I do feel like I want to share it with you guys, because when I tell you that this book made me feel understood and it made me feel seen, this is kind of what I meant. So what I underlined was, the days dragged, the walls closed in. He dreamed of deserts and great empty cities and imagined he could feel the minutes and hours of his life running through him, as though he were nothing but an hourglass of flesh and bone. And so I wrote, this is a very similar description to how depression feels. I felt this passage. It's just little things like that that kind of made me like bawl my eyes out, because it was just so beautiful and it was so human. And it just feels like Laini Taylor truly understands what she's writing. Like, she's not writing it to sound relatable or to be like, oh yeah, I put that in. It's like she really felt this book in her guts, and it shows. So of course I had to put this in my list, because I will not be forgetting this book for a very long time. This next book, it's the first time that I ever had a breakdown that I recorded. I feel like that little information is important. This next book, which is number 5, I believe, is none other than The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, written by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I absolutely loved it, and I absolutely lost it. This book tells the story of Miss Evelyn Hugo, the celebrity, kind of like Marilyn Monroe. She kind of has like that celebrity status, and she has been married over 7 times. And people have always been obsessed with her life. They've always wanted to know, why 7 husbands? Like, what the hell? Why can't you keep a man down? Are you the one that's at fault? Like, what's happening? We just want to know. And so one day, Evelyn Hugo calls this reporter and she's like, I want to write a book about my life and I want you to write it. And they just keep having conversation after conversation about her life, and we start learning so many things. And you would think that learning about a fictional celebrity that doesn't even exist would be boring. It kind of feels like a TMZ of some sorts, but it's not. When you finally learn the story behind each of the husbands and all the struggles that she had to go through as a Cuban immigrant, it was so fantastic. And just thinking about it brings chills to my skin, to my body. It just like, I'm freaking losing it all over again, because thinking about Evelyn Hugo and thinking about everything she stands for and just how freaking badass she is, it makes me feel so empowered about myself. And it makes me kind of like want to stand up and take over the world in a very, peaceful manner. And I really would highly recommend that you pick up The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo if you haven't already. Coming up at number 4, Miss Mojo Energy. We love her. Stalking Jack the Ripper, written by Carrie Maniscalco. I read this book with the lovely, the adorable, the amazing Katie from Katie's Book Nook, or also Kay Tate. her new channel. If you guys like K-pop, you should go subscribe to her because that's my new current obsession. She only has like 2 videos up, but still, I love her. This book tells the story of these 2 characters, Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, aka couple goals, and they are currently trying to find who Jack the Ripper is because they're living in the time when Jack the Ripper was active, which I believe was 1890s. Yes, 1888. So they're just kind of like investigating all of the clues that Jack the Ripper leaves behind, like the little notes that he left behind. And I would just like to say, if you're a fan of BuzzFeed Unsolved or like true crime podcasts, I feel like this book is the right fit for you. This is a whole series of books. It has 4 books and this is the very first one. And even though I'm only talking about Stalking Jack the Ripper, I feel like the whole series as a whole is my top books of 2019 because I just absolutely loved it. It was incredible. It was amazing. Every time I think about it, I just get so excited because it's just so fun, but it's also so intense. Like the action scenes and like when they're about to find the murderer, like you don't know if it's really Jack the Ripper or if it's just like a copycat, and there's just so much intensity going on, but it's like the good kind of intensity and you never want it to end. Coming up at number 3, we have a book that nobody mentioned in my Twitter Guess My Top 5 Books of 2019. And actually, I was not surprised because I feel like I haven't talked about this book enough. I did talk about it once when I read it in one of my vlogs. I feel like it deserves more recognition, so that's what I'm gonna give it. And that is The Astonishing Color of After. This is in my top books, obviously, of course, but it's also in my all-time favorite books of my whole life. This is a very hard book for me to read. It deals with depression and dealing with the death of a family member, the death of her mom, the main character, and it also takes place in Taiwan, which is a place that I've always had a really close connection to because that's where my parents met, that's where they fell in love, that's where they got married and had my sister. So Taiwan has always been like this amazing land of opportunity and love, and basically where my life started. Our main character, she thinks that her mom has turned into a bird and that bird is visiting her and telling her to do stuff. Not like evil stuff, just kind of like go to Taiwan. The answers are there. Sometimes you have these connections with books that you can't really explain because it's such a visceral feeling and it's such a subconscious connection that you can't really find the words to explain why this book hit you as hard as it did. It was so heartbreakingly beautiful. It's just her portrayal of humanity and emotions and how humans deal with these emotions. It's just so raw and it's so painful to read, but it's also like it's so real. Coming up at number 2 is probably the book that you've been waiting to see since this book started. You're kind of like, Isabella, where is this book? You've talked about it forever on your channel. How come you haven't talked about it now? What's happened? What's wrong? Don't worry, it's at number 2, and that is Nevernight, written by J. Kristoff. This trilogy, the Nevernight Chronicles, Nevernight Godsgrave, and the 3rd book that was okay. Yes, Nevernight is one of the best trilogies I have ever read in my life, and it did fall victim to the curse of the 3rd book where it just kind of falls flat. I don't like the 3rd book. There, I said it. But Nevernight and Godsgrave are one of the best gifts to humanity that I've ever read in my life. And I just had to commemorate that because I will never forget reading Nevernight and just experiencing this whole world of Mia Corvere. She loses everything to this corrupt government. So she's like, I'm going to become an assassin and I'm going to kill every single person that was involved in me losing everything. It's Mia's life into how she's becoming an assassin to deal with these people that took everything from her, and through her journey to become an assassin, things start happening and we start learning stuff, and there's magic involved, and there's, you know, a lot of sex scenes, and there's a lot of innuendos, and there's it's definitely not PG-13. I wouldn't say it's PG-15 either, like, cause I just feel like the language here is very adultish. I have seen this book several times in the young adult section, which is a very big mistake. Like, if your young adult child is reading this book, sweetie, they're going to be getting a very rude awakening. This is one of the most interesting stories that I read this year. It was one of the most exciting stories. The action scenes are definitely like the cherry on top. I just feel like there's so many things to love about this book, apart from the characters, because we have Mia Corveri, we got Ashlyn, we got Trick, like we got so many characters to love and adore, and they're all so different from each other. You never get tired of it. Like, you never get tired of it. And every time there's like a twist in the story, you're like, what the, I did not see that coming. How is this man such a genius? I love him. And by this man, I mean Jay Kristoff, of course. But Mia Corveri, like, listen, she could step on me and I would say, do it again. God, just looking at it, I want to cry. That's how I know it's my favorite book of 2019. Daisy Jones and the Six, written by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Daisy Jones and the Six is the story of the Six, which is a band, and Daisy Jones, which is a solo artist, and how they came together, and then of course their disbandment. And it's this reporter that is interviewing each different member and kind of getting the story of why they disbanded, and if there was like any tea, if there was any drama. It's kind of like a TMZ, but a bit classier. I know it sounds kind of basic. It doesn't really sound like something that would be interesting to read about, because usually if you read about a band, it's a band that you love, it's a band that you were invested in. But since nobody's ever heard of Daisy Jones and the Six because they don't exist, why would you want to know about them? Why? Like, you can't even listen to their music. And I think the only answer I can give you is you have to read the book to understand. It's not something that can be explained by me. Obviously, I feel like anybody else could do a very good job at explaining why this book is so good. But if you come to me, all you'll be getting is just hysterical crying, constant screaming, and, you know, a lot of I loved this, I loved that. That's all you'll get, really. When the book ends, it kind of hurts because you're like, I really want to listen to one of their songs, or I really want to watch one of their live concerts on YouTube. And then you go on YouTube and you look for Daisy Jones and the Six, and all you find are book reviews, and you're like, where the fuck is the concert? These are my top reads of 2019. Each and every single one of them has a very special place in my heart. They have shaped who I am today. They made my 2019 better, and a lot of these books actually connected me to my current friends here on BookTube, which I will forever be grateful for, because these people have absolutely changed my life. I think 2019 was definitely the reading year for me. I read so many wonderful books, and I also did read some books that I didn't really enjoy, but I still don't regret reading, because then I would have always wondered if maybe it was going to be one of my top books of 2019. So every book has its purpose, and these books shaped who I am, so I will forever be grateful to them. It feels so good to be back. It feels so good to be talking to you guys again, and I can't wait to talk to you guys in the comments. I always love reading through your comments. It makes me feel so happy, and I always have the biggest smile on my face. So thank you so much for that if you're one of the people that comment. And yeah, just like, if you're still here, thank you for that as well, and I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you're having a wonderful 2020 so far. I hope, you know, you had a good start to the year, and if you didn't, you know, let's keep fighting. We're gonna make 2020 our bitch. I believe in us, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys in my next video. I'll see you next time. Bye!
You nice, keep going.